Okay, so it's time to move on to our first panel session of the morning, where we're going to talk to three founders, like I said, who've used the COVID lockdown to reassess, to do new things, to pivot slightly. So I'd like to introduce our three speakers. Firstly, we've got Eddie Robb, who's from a number of companies, but we've put down as Funky Masks today. So welcome, Eddie. We've got Andrew Watson from Sherpr, which is a luggage delivery company. And we've got Alexa Rathbone from TripAbrood, which when it launches soon, it is a new AI-driven, family-focused holiday provider. Okay, great. We've got you all online. Fantastic. Let's start with Eddie, because you've got quite an interesting story about lockdown, in that you actually set up a company during lockdown, and when you were stuck in Antigua, having flown there on holiday and not been able to get back to the UK. So just a quick story about how you set up Funky Masks from a laptop in Antigua. Eddie, unmute yourself, yeah. Maybe we'll move on quickly. We'll move on. Let's turn to Andrew. We spoke earlier in the lockdown period, because you obviously were running Sherpr, which is a company that delivers people's bags when they go on holiday. Obviously, holidays and travel stopped happening. So you quickly pivoted a little bit there, and tell us about what you did in order to sort of bring some more revenue into the company.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we, like everybody else in the travel industry, were certainly worried about what was going to happen. And I think from the statistics and the revenue generation, we saw a huge dip over March and April. And I think, just touching back on what Chris was saying on the previous chat there about, what can we do during this down period of time to try and find parts of our business that we could potentially pivot to and generate incremental revenue from. So we took what we had as the existing logistics infrastructure and just thought, what can we do from a front end to create this additional revenue and spin off an additional business to it. So we created Deliver My Parcel, which actually wasn't really and isn't a new concept. At the time, you had everybody from home and people were sending packages to one another. So actually the logistics industry itself was one of the only industries that was probably increasing in revenue, although they were put under immense strain. So what we did is we just took that existing infrastructure, put a new front end, and really started to move parcels instead of packages. So there wasn't really anything that we did from the back end that was particularly different. We just saw an opportunity and thought, look, let's just go for this. And it took us 5 days to launch the site. Now, what we then found subsequently, which we talked about yesterday, was that Sherpr has now taken off massively, and we're now growing over 20% week on week. And now people are starting to now look to go back on holiday as well. About 20% of the audience and bookings that we have are people going on holiday. Other people are relocating. There's a lot of people that were stuck and left items, luggage, boxes, whatever that may be. A lot of students as well that were using the service. So I think really what we did is we looked at it, panicked a little bit like everybody else did, but then really kind of gathered thoughts and thought, we've got 24 hours here. What can we do without having to pump in tons of cash, when really what we were doing was completely scaling back the business, scaling back on personnel, and trying to find a way to profitability as quick as we possibly could.
So actually, in the end, you created the parcel delivery thing. You've ended up with a brand there, but actually you've scaled that back. But was it a good process to go through during a crisis, just to show what you can do during a crisis? What did you learn from it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was exciting. I missed that. I missed the starting a business again, actually.
Yeah.
And I was quite envious of that. And there was an exciting part. I think, what I think we talked about it last time, Lee, as founders, we can get quite stubborn sometimes. And sometimes we can not necessarily react as quickly as we possibly should. And I think where the penny really dropped was we were actually raising money at the time, and we were probably halfway through the raise, and we were quite far on with one VC. And when the pandemic hit, they just pulled the money and said, no, we need to see what's going to happen with travel. And I think for any startups that are coming into the space now or thinking of raising money, it's going to be a really, really tough time for the next year. We don't know when this is going to recover. So I think just in terms of what creating that business taught us was we can be quick if we need to pivot quickly. So for our current shareholders, and I think it proved that we're not afraid to pivot quickly into something that we didn't necessarily see a vision for, but we knew that there was an opportunity. And at the point in time, it was just all about survival. And that's really what we took from it.
Yeah, kind of reflects what Chris was saying about, people are important, but it's what you're able to do as people and your skills. And if you can show you can pivot quickly, you've got more people more confidence in you as backers as well. Eddie, can we hear you now? Just.
So can you?
We can. Fantastic. So you as I set you up, you set up this company during lockdown. Just tell us a story about setting up this company. How that happened.
The introduction to the story. Yeah, we were on holiday in Antigua, and 10 days into that holiday, the airport got locked down, so we were stranded horribly in a beautiful island, a Caribbean island, for 2 months. We were there, and during that time, the beginning of the lockdown, they were pretty strict. The Antiguan government, it was very much locked down. You could only go out to get food, and no exercise, no anything. Couldn't go to the beach. It was horrible, and we had to stay in our accommodation. And during that time, we I had a lot of ideas going around. I think this is an amazing time for an entrepreneur. Like, I'll get to my previous previous business later, but as an entrepreneur for the last year, I've been looking around for opportunities and ideas and which one I really want to get my teeth into, and a few obviously popped up with coronavirus coming along, and it's a lot of uncertainty during these times, so there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of new problems to solve. One that I got involved in, so both these ideas we set up out when I was in the Caribbean. One was both with Steve Endicott, who was an old investor in my old business. He supported us. He had an idea on this Queue-less queue, which is a queuing app for high street and for bars and restaurants. So I got involved as a non-exec with that concept and helped them go through the building an app. So from Antigua there, we set up that company, and we found developers in Slovenia and built this whole app. The guys I've worked with before, but built the app out there and started rolling that out. But the one that I'm sort of heading up, the other idea that came out is funky face masks. So the concept of funky face mask was that everyone, especially in the travel industry as well, people are going to have to be wearing face masks for the foreseeable future. Who knows how long it's going to be? And why not make them a little bit funky, as Steve likes to call it? Let's add something a bit more exciting, a bit interesting to that face mask that you have to wear, especially in travel. So we found a producer out in Southeast Asia. Found a partner organization. We've got a good team and work in a few factories out there for us for different types of masks. We built up a sales team. We set up the bank account. We created the agreements. Listen to Chris there. We did all that. We got the agreements between all three partners of the business. The other third of the business set up the website in record time. And we obviously incorporated the business, and I was just checking. It was nearly exactly 2 months ago we set that up. And since going through all that from the laptop in Antigua, we've sold nearly 100,000 masks, including to Jet2. We're providing Jet2's all their staff with masks, and it's really just building momentum. Like every day now, we're going online, we're seeing new orders coming in. And for me, being in a long lead time of a tech sales business before, having just a sale come in of 1,000 masks or 10,000 masks or whatever coming in is really exciting. It's a whole new world for me, and having learned things about import taxes and how manufacturing, the tiny little bits of variations on manufacturing between different factories and the right product, etc. A whole new world different world for me, but really interesting. And obviously cash flow is a very different beast when it comes to having to pay for supplies before the client's not paying for them until they receive them. So yeah, it's been a really interesting lockdown for me, learning a lot of lessons, a whole new industry, as I say. And yeah, we're just enjoying it as we go. No idea how long it's going to last. This business is not one that I've set up with an ultimate vision. The previous one, I had a big vision where we wanted to get to, what we were going to do, and that was building a team around that and getting them all rallied around that vision. But with this one, we're keeping it really nimble. We've got a sales team who are working, their initial connections based on commission, but a nice commission. So we're not bringing in staff and overheads and costs like that. We're just keeping it nimble. And, if it does lead to something and we create, the Nike shoe of face masks brand, that could be something we can look at. But who knows what face masks are going to.
You can dream, yeah. Let's talk to Alexa. You actually spoke at our event last year, didn't you? One of our pitches, and you're still pre-launch, and I think you were close to launch as COVID hit. Just tell us what's happened, because it's given you that time to think about the business, and what have you done in the business, because you've had that time to just rethink and maybe reset slightly.
Yeah. So just a quick summary: TripAbrood is an AI-powered family travel booking experience, aiming to reduce the time it takes to book a family holiday from 30 hours to under 10 minutes. And we raised our first round in October last year, and Lee kindly invited me to be one of the pitchers at the Startup Summit last year. And since then, it was sort of a roller coaster ride of getting money in, starting to recruit fantastic people in the team, along with my tech co-founder, Ketan and And what then happened when COVID hit was, obviously we were accelerating up to this launch, and then COVID struck. What's actually come out of that actually is a huge opportunity for us as a business, which is focused on reinventing family travel, was to step back and say, how can we use COVID as an opportunity in two ways? One is to build up a fantastic team of rock stars that can grow this business when COVID hopefully become something of the past, or at least more manageable. And the second thing has been, how can we bring up a really strong group of early adopters that are waiting for us to launch. So on the team side, I actually wrote an article for Travolution, which Lee kindly published, which was all around the amazing talent that we've been able to recruit from a remote basis. I think we started off as sort of founders, Ketan and I, thinking we're going to get an office, we're going to get people, we're going to get to know each other and create that company culture. And very quickly through COVID, we realized actually, by being remote first, we can focus on who are the right people for this role, versus necessarily who's in the radius that's nearest to an office. And through that, we now have a pretty substantial tech team that's based out in India. Our team now is 11 people across both the UK, Scotland, and India. So that's been one plus that's come out of this focus really on remote working first. And the second piece has been around developing our early adopter community. So when lockdown struck, myself as a parent with 3 kids, I think I was facing what every parent would face, which is, how do I keep my kids entertained whilst also trying to run a travel tech business? Someone who joined the team actually pitched this concept around activity packs. So everyone's stuck at home with their kids. They want to go and travel. They want to expand their children's mindsets around different cultures, but how do they do that? And we came up with this idea of actually bringing travel virtually back into the house, where parents and kids could get excited each week about different cultures, learn about, facts about the culture, recipes, key phrases in the language, create crafts, enter into competitions, and this evolved into actually something that became weekly during lockdown. So every week we produced an activity pack about a different country, the excitement sort of built to the point that actually we were sort of slightly crashing our CRM system with the amount of people that were coming in, because they had to sign up to get these packs. We ended up increasing our mailing list over that period by 500%. And what's really fascinating is the amount of loyalty that's come out of this, which is, we've all been on this journey. My kids have been doing the crafts. We've had Ketan's, daughter doing the crafts. We've really been able to develop this culture in the company where we're there to support and help our customers. And what that's translated into is a sense of loyalty in a product that's about to be launched. Now we have an early adopter community that are opening 80% of our emails, where 31% of them are saying, I want to book my next holiday from you, when are you launching? And based on a rather large mailing list from an early stage perspective, that's super exciting for us. And obviously, with all the challenges with COVID, being able to show that we can adapt as a business has been great for both of our investors, and also for our community that we've grown.
And what are your launch plans? Has that been put back because of COVID, but you've got a date in mind now that you're going to?
Yeah, no, we have. So we're doing a soft launch in August. Yeah, from then on, I mean, essentially we've got a group of customers that want to book now. So, you know, that's an exciting position to be for a startup. And now it's been around, actually, you know, we've had, it's come up several times, actually, that idea of actually having space and time to be able to create an MVP that's better than it would have been a couple of months ago. And so, you know, we're feeling excited about bringing that to market. So that'll be the end of August.
Yeah. Thanks for that. So look, Eddie, you mentioned earlier or referenced a previous company that you were involved with, and that was Make It Social, which was a way for people to buy as groups and pay as a group. And it got a lot of traction for a while. I think we wrote about it a number of times, and some big companies were looking at it. In the end, that didn't work. And often with these things, you always speak to people who've been successful, so you get a successor bias in these events. It's good to hear about people who don't make it. I mean, you know, a vast majority of startups in the end don't. So when you look back on Make It Social, and now you're in your new businesses, what were the key learnings from that? When you assess why it didn't quite do what you wanted it to do?
So yeah, why? Yeah, it was a difficult one. So yeah, 6 years of hard work on Make It Social. Met you a number of times. We're in, you know, I think we spoke at this a long time ago as well. And you know, we're over in Miami doing the Focusrite conference. All these are big conferences, big stage, big whatever. Built the teams up to 15 people, a big tech team, all based in Edinburgh. Really loved building the team and doing all that social side of things. So when or the building the community, the culture side of things. So when obviously the shit hit the fan and it all came to an end, it was really a long story as to how that happened, but we ran out of runway, is the nice way to say it. Investor frictions is another nice way of saying it. But when anyone wants to buy me a pint, I'll tell them the full story of that one time when we get through it. But yeah, when it all goes under, there's a lot of people sort of just put a brave face on it, etc. But you know, it was really tough, if I'm honest. Like bumping into people, CEOs, other people on the street who were like, "Oh, how's the business going?" And you know, they hadn't quite heard. You know, it's not you don't get a press release necessarily about a bit of startup just going under. It was they had to hear through the grapevine of people talking to them, and you get those puppy dog eyes from your friends, from other CEOs, from just other people you know, and other people in the industry, in the sector. So yeah, it was a really tough time, and I didn't have a clue what I'd do. You know, I was just like, you know, what am I going to do with it with my life now? All I've done since I was 23, 24 to 30 was Make It Social. That was my full focus. Yeah. And yeah, so there's, you know, we could tell a long story about this, and you know, lessons I learned and what I would have done differently. But I've boiled it up into 3 different things to try and, because obviously we don't have that long here. Yeah, so 3 things I'd sort of say I would do the same and wouldn't do the same. Like the people part of it, there's been a lot of talk already with us and with Chris previously about the people side of it, and that is hugely important on many different levels. With the staff, for me, the team that I had around me at first, I was very guarded against it. Didn't want them to hear the struggles we were going through, because we were probably struggling for a year and a half towards the end, you know, really keep fighting to keep the lights on. But for a while at the beginning, we didn't tell any of the staff anything. Well, I didn't. I kept it all on myself and all on my own shoulders. And there was a moment when I was like, you know what, I'm just going to open up here. And you know, some of them left, like no joke, like obviously some of them were like, look, Eddie, I need more security. But the others then were way more in the fight. They were like, oh, we know we're in a fight here together. It's not just the secretness or whatever. So they came in and helped and had really good, you know, different ideas. And you know, that was maybe an immature thing from me, not thinking, oh, I can't share it with them. But no one's going to feel it. I thought they would feel it harder and they would be more scared, etc., than I was. But no one's going to feel it more than the founder, and that was the big lesson I learned. It's your baby at the end of the day. They know they can move on and they can find another job. Yeah, they were part of a team that failed, but it wasn't their head. Yeah. So that was a really good one, and just being honest and open with them, as well as with investors. So when the business went under, I went around, I took some advice from someone else. I went around every single individual angel, and you know, who I'd brought in. We didn't ever go through a group. I did it all individually. So I went back to each one and told them the story and what's going on. You know, and I think since then, because of those relationships that I kept building, you know, I've led to much more. So as I said, Steve was one of our investors, and that's now I'm working on him with a number of projects with him. And the other investors have introduced me for consultancy jobs. So that big, what will I do? As soon as the business went under, that an investor of mine phoned up and said, Eddie, could you really help this company out? I think all the lessons you've learned, you can do it. Like, I was day 2 after the business went to liquidation. I was able to, bring onto consultancy stuff. And yeah, one of the a great friend I met through the travel industry, we just built a really, really good connection. He was kind enough to say, look, Eddie, when I started, I had 2 businesses that went under, and I had no money and no chat. I just really wanted to get away. So where do you want to go? I'm going to send you away somewhere. When the business went under, he's now successful travel startup founder. Where do you want to go? I'll lend you the money, just pay me back whenever you can. So I was able to get away for a month and just travel and clear my head and not have to deal with all those puppy dog eyes that everyone was giving me, which is nice and kind of them, but I just wanted to not have to tell the story again and get away and clear my head. Yeah. So yeah, the people's a big one. And then the other lesson I would do differently is be more nimble. Like, we were there for 6 years, so at the beginning, yeah, we were a scrappy little startup doing everything we could, but then as you got older business, there was a perception that you were already successful, and every investment round is like, so that my take on that was actually, we need to be more strategic and less nimble, and not just changing at the drop of a hat as I like to do as an entrepreneur. Oh, this is a new idea, let's focus on that. And because of that, we didn't change our commercial plan quickly enough. Like, when we realized it wasn't working the way our commercial setup meant to be working, we didn't change it quick enough. And I hired a few people that they were big names. We brought them in, and that was exciting, but actually they weren't the right fit, and I should have got rid of them a lot quicker and taken that back and found someone more suitable for it. So I think that was just continually being nimble until you're really successful. Like, you can smoke and mirrors, you can fool yourself, but really you just put yourself into a bit of trouble there.
Andrew, so just sorry to break in, but do you recognise some of that in your business? Have you sort of surrounded yourself with a network of support people, and do you find being honest, particularly with your staff? I think Chris mentioned that actually your staff will really stick with you in tough times if they feel part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think just touching on what Eddie was saying there, we've been through the ringer as well. Everybody only ever sees the good stuff from the outset, and it's great, you've got your own business and such. And I think this time last year we were about 2 weeks away from losing Sherpr at one point. There was just, and eventually what happens when you start to get into that spiral, everything just piles on top and you just get these layers where you're just completely suffocated. And I think the reality is that what was learned from that was, we rely so much on this. We read in TechCrunch, such and such has raised 5 million, such and such has raised 10 million. Why can't I do that? Well, the reality is you don't, as you mentioned, you don't see all the ones that go down on a daily basis. Now, I think coming out of COVID and what we've found during this period of time, and we're now lucky that Sherp is growing very fast at the moment, but get to break even as quickly as you possibly can, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Don't overhire just because you think it's a great thing to have a nice team, and it's nice to have a team here, and nice to with a team also comes headaches, a lot of headaches, and also a lot of costs and a lot of overheads. So I think until you really have that business model nailed down and you really have some 2 or 3 robust partnerships that are bringing in over 50% of your revenue, and you're not relying on marketing and you're not relying on anything else, then I think, then you can start to go, okay, well, now I need to raise this money here because I know that we can definitely get to this next level. And I think COVID's showing that at any point that can be pulled away from you. Just go as lean as you possibly can. And I think actually you look at larger corporate businesses that are getting rid of their offices right now, they're realizing actually we can save $1 million to $2 million a year on our office, and we don't need these staff here that really are not bringing the value to the business, but they're kind of nice to have. And that sounds really harsh, but I think it's just really important to just cut the burn to the lowest point as you possibly can, because you just don't know what's around the corner.
Alexa, it does feel like the industry as a whole is in a sort of startup phase again, because even the big corporates are having to operate in much more lean fashion. You're like that anyway as a startup. Did you recognise in what Chris was saying about his experience? I mean, he very much did it, in his bedroom, and built it in his bedroom, and actually everyone's doing it at the moment in the same way. So do you recognise that, and do you see the pitfalls? Are you concerned there's maybe things you're doing now that you need to be careful not to make the same mistakes?
Yeah, well, I think the point about being a startup founder is if you're doing something new, you've probably not done it before. And so being very honest with yourself and with the team around it's okay to make mistakes, but it's also important to recognize what you've done and then try and do it differently next time. And I think the level of honesty with investors and with your team, I think has come out as a theme. But, for us from the very beginning, I think we, from the hiring points all the way through to when they join, and we're very clear we're an early stage startup, there's a huge amount of risk. And, as founders, we're taking on that risk personally. I think leading by example, and I've seen this work really well with startups where the people right at the top are saying, I'm taking a massive amount of personal risk. I'm not paying myself very much at all. There are decisions I'm taking that I'm pushing back that I would love to take. And then when you're sharing that openly with the team, and then you're saying, and the reality is that I can't stretch that far, or I need to be honest with you that it's going to be challenging. But I'm facing the same thing, so we're all in it together. I think developing that all in it together culture, it means that you naturally bring alongside you people that are willing to take a high degree of risk because they like the idea, they like the team. And where I've made mistakes is where I haven't identified early enough in the process that actually this is a risk too far for that person. And sometimes I think we talked around that, the idea of getting excited about whether it's names or whether it's additional hires, when actually the reality is it's probably not right for them, it's probably not right for you. So focusing on execution first, I think, has been the priority, which is getting people in that can execute. I think ideas are fantastic. Execution is key. I
think we heard last year. Sorry, Eddie. Yeah, Eddie, go on.
I was just going to say, just on that point, when so I've been consulting for other startups for say 1.5 years since the business went under in between, and everyone always seems to be about, I can't wait to get that first hire. I just want, can we hire someone now? Can we hire this person? And as I wait until, that's as you said, Andrew, is the biggest once you start bringing people in, it creates this whole different headache. You're looking after people to some extent, and you're having to really worry about that. And I always try and keep it nimble, bring consultants in, bring external agencies, etc., until you really know that, hey, we've got something now. Let's build a culture around this thing this idea that I have, and let's move it on.
So what I would say, just the final thing I'd say is, if you can find those people that are in it for the right reasons, it's electric. Because when you build a team of entrepreneurs that all back the idea and that are putting themselves on the line for it, I think it just develops, it creates this culture that, I've been in corporate life for a very long time, and it's been a hugely powerful experience for me, but I've never experienced the kind of passion that I see in people that are putting their own lives on the line.
I thought it was interesting from Chris. He found his co-founder online. They hadn't even met, but someone like Alex was saying, something clicked. Andrew, do you have people in the business like that who do you need someone who's like you, or do you need someone who actually is different to you as if you get to look for a co-founder or some key hires, so that you're not all thinking in the same way? You got people in the business who are challenging you as well.
Yeah. I mean, you need someone. I personally need someone different to me. Two of me would be an absolute nightmare. I think you have your strengths and you have your weaknesses, and I think if you can get someone else to complement those weaknesses and take those off your back and just focus on exactly what you're good at. I don't have a co-founder. I actually wish I did have a co-founder. In hindsight, I wish before. We're lucky that we got some really good people around the business and in the business. I think to Alexa's point, it's you have to go through, for you to land on an employee or a co-founder that is on your same wavelength, is 1 in 10, 20. I mean, it's hard to find, and you'll go through hiring and firing quite a few times probably until you get to that point. But as long as you're honest and you're open with them, I think also, interestingly enough, what I've learned from creating and building the team and in previous startups I've had as well, is we always went for a cheaper and quicker youth option, and actually we found those to be more troublesome to manage than the slightly older, early 30s, mid 20s even, than earlier. And I don't know what that is, but maybe it's I want everything now culture, and that a startup's going to be like a Spotify, when actually the realities are that you need people that have been through that potentially before. But yeah, I mean, I do help other startups. I'm one of the advisors for a part of the WeWork business, to helping some startups get through there. I invest in a couple of other startups as well to help out, and I think it's just trying to help and portray your story and get these guys to really and girls to really get your feet on the ground first, and try not to be thinking, well, you know, I met one startup recently and cool idea, and they were looking to raise money, and I said, how much are you looking to raise? And they said, oh, well, as much as we possibly can. You just don't need that. You know, what is the actual reality? Why do you need as much as you possibly can, and what does that even mean? Because with more money does come a lot more problems as well. So it's just about navigating that. And it's the same with Eddie, and you know, and as much as it is horrendous, and I feel for anybody that's lost a business, because unless you've actually, it's happened to you or it's close to happening, you don't understand how that feels. And you know, to have that experience going into something else, as bad as it sounds, is just vital, because it will happen it will most likely happen at some point.
If you don't have a co-founder, do you have someone who you would see as a mentor, or someone you could turn to for advice in the industry? You did. Yeah.
I mean, we've got what I tried to do with the advisory board and also the board is to look at 3 or 4 core sections of the business. What are we? And for example, we have one chap who's quite well known in the travel industry that can help us with partnerships, specifically for travel integrations, API integrations into OTAs or whatever that may be. Just contacts. We have one guy in logistics who was the ex-managing director of UPS. So, you know, I had no idea about logistics when I started. For all my sins, it's still happening, logistics. And then just trying to find those people, and then pulling on those people when you need you need that. And those guys can give you different perspectives, and getting them together on a monthly basis as well, which is what we do.
Okay, well, time is catching up with us, so we need to wrap things up. Just a quick thought for all 3 of you. Actually, Chris is quite positive about the prospects and the chances. He says, you know, he sees opportunities and he sees good ideas all over the place, particularly in tech and travel. So that's quite positive, although we are in difficult times. So just start with Alexa, Eddie, and then Andrew. Quick word on what you think the prospects are, just generally in travel, and for people who want to start, who see an opportunity and think they can make something work in the next, you know, next year, 2 years. Oh, was that
yeah, no,
there you
are. Yeah, well, you know, I think having spoken to our customers, you know, and you know, I literally just out with a whole bunch of school mums last night, and everyone is talking travel. Literally, we talked for an hour and a half about where people are going when travel starts opening up, why they're nervous about traveling at the moment. But no one's saying, I'm done with travel. You know, the point is that travel and experiencing different cultures, exploring the world, is always going to be within our DNA. The question will be in terms of adapting to the new norm, in terms of how to travel during COVID safely, and how traveling habits will change. And then as startups, being able to adapt ourselves so that customers feel that level of trust. Because I think that's one thing that's come out a lot with travel brands at the moment, is the challenges around when things go wrong, when there's cancellations, and when there's unhappy customers. You know, and again, that's been a very much of a focus of conversation, which is people upset about the customer service. So huge opportunity for us as startups to really reinvent, putting customers at the heart of everything we do, and making it so that actually the decisions that they take in good faith, and we hold their hand through the process. And the final thing I'd say is startups is, you know, we've managed to secure partnerships that would not have been possible pre-COVID, because you've got bigger businesses interested in innovation in a way that they weren't before. So we've just signed with Travelport a data partnership last week. We've got a partnership with TripAbrood. All of these things that we've been able to do over the last couple of months that I genuinely think would have taken a lot longer pre-COVID. So I suppose a positive end to me, which is that if you have an idea that you feel you know, is genuinely an opportunity to disrupt the travel market, then I would see this as probably a unique opportunity to do that.
Yeah, Eddie, entrepreneurs are always optimists, so I'm sure you're like that. But you know,
I would have never
really
been
optimistic now.
Yeah, I'd have never been in a face mask business before this, and I think that the point on that is that this pandemic has created a whole new batch of problems, and as startup founders, as startups, we're all about solving problems. And here we've got this whole new list, and it's not even that we're going into those problems and saying, oh, actually, I think I can do that one better than that company, which is what we've been doing, I think, for the last 10 years, trying to be a little bit better than them. Here we've got new problems that haven't been solved yet. And, you know, with face masks, is getting some branding, getting them looking good and getting them out there is what we are doing there. And there's a whole batch of problems out there. So I think it's a very exciting time for anyone who classifies themselves as a startup founder or entrepreneur, that horrible word.
Yeah. And Andrew, as travel returns, that keep you optimistic and optimistic about the sector in general?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much more to add. I think Alexa summed it up pretty well. My hope and fingers crossed is that there at some point next year there'll be a boom. And I think people are itching to go traveling. I'm certainly itching to go on holiday and have a break or work from somewhere else potentially, and hopefully that then, you know, filters into our business and everyone else's business in travel and gets things kick-started again. But, you know, travel's not going away. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. Look, we have to wrap up there, a bit behind time. So, but I really appreciate your time today, guys. Thanks very much. Get back to getting those startups working properly, and, you know, all the best. We wish you the best for the future, and hopefully it's a positive future for all three of you. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks,
guys.
Bye.
Cheers.